Guys, this is Tommy Tan, the Life Man, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear. But I want to make this video at least a 10-minute video, 15-minute video as a maximum. I don't want to make it a 20-minute video. But this video is going to talk about my good and bad experience of, touring and visiting N.Y.C, New York City. Hell yeah! I wrote on paper about what I like and dislike about, New York, the pros and cons of, New York. I have at least, 9 pros that I like about New York, nine things that I like about New York. And I have about 8 things that I dislike about New York. Yeah, but hey, I love New York City. I love the Northeast coast and the West Coast, man. I don't like the southern states. I don't like the Midwest. So yeah, the reason why I don't like the southern states where I live, is because the southern states is not just so boring, but people are too much of inside their house, too much inside of a building constantly, and people aren't, when you're around people, you feel more alive, you feel more free, you feel like you exist when you're around people, like in how I was in N.Y.C. So yeah, even the Midwest, I think a lot of people don't walk outside a lot. They don't seem sociable. They don't seem open-minded and kind and friendly, like how I experienced in N.Y.C. I don't know about you, but as a man, as a Asian man, my experience at N.Y.C. been pretty good, not so bad at all. I was really happy when I visit, N.Y.C. You see, so let's get to number 1 about New York City. What I like about New York, number 1 is New York has good transportation to be transferred. That's true. New York has good transportation. Like, you could walk anywhere out in the streets, and get an Uber driver, get a Lyft, catch a subway train transportation, catch a taxi. But nowadays, you could catch a Uber or Lyft and plus it's cheaper. You see, you don't have to catch a taxi no more because everything now is all on phones and electronic phones. So thank goodness we have Uber and Lyft. But me, I use Uber. Uber is very good. I used Uber at least twice already. In the future, I want to start using more Uber. Uber and transportation in New York is very good. Also, Lyft is similar to like Uber. It's on your phone, like iPhones, Galaxy, Samsung, other phones except flip phones. Yeah, or if you want to have a free transportation from another town, another city, you use the subway train transportation. But the problem with train transportation is that it gets crowded and it gets a lot of people. It has a lot of weird people. But if you're okay with that, go with it. All right. So yeah, New York, pros about New York, it has good transportation. That's what I love about New York. Number 2 is the walkability near the streets. I love the walking sidewalks and walking transportation in New York, because when you walk outside in New York, the sidewalks is very, very wide. Like 5-10 people could walk on the sidewalks on the same path and near each other, compared to California or Texas. California and Texas streets of roads is made for just damn near cars all the time, trucks all the times, and New York has a good walkability for people to walk from their apartment to the store, walk from the apartment or house to the park. That's what I like about N.Y.C. They have a very good walkability. You can walk almost anywhere you want. But if you're gonna go from a town to a city or city to another city, you're gonna have to catch a transportation, which is having a rental car, Uber, Lyft, or a train, subway transportation. So yeah, I love the walkability and the sidewalks in New York City because it has a lot of rooms. I have a lot of space that what I just like about Texas and California in the southern states in general is that the walkability and the sidewalks for people to walk from one place to another really sucks bad. It sucks. The streets in California, Texas, the West Coast in general, and the southern states, the sidewalks and the walkability fucking sucks because it always feels like you need a car, you need a truck just to transport yourself from your home to a store or home to your job. That's why I dislike about, living in the southern states or even the West Coast compared to New York. Number 3, New York has delicious food availability. Yes, New York has amazing variety of different foods that I love. I ate Chinese food. I ate Italian food. I ate Japanese food. There's delicious food everywhere. I mean, you just walk outside and you could just walk from where you live to a little restaurant, a little buffet, something, and get a delicious food right outside, somewhere out in the street. It could be right in front of you, it could be on your left or right. So this food availability everywhere. That's what I like about New York. And what I like about New York is that you don't even need to always drive your car from your home to a certain food place. You could catch, a transportation to transfer yourself from your home to a food place. So yeah. So number 4 is there are people around and people outside. That is what I like about New York. About the 4th thing about New York is that people are around you, and people are around others, and people are outside all the time and almost all day long. That's what I like about New York. It's that I like being around people, and I like being around, seeing dogs, with animals and stuff like that. It's because when you're around people, you feel like you exist more. You don't feel invisible, and you don't feel like you're a dead ghost. Like if you live in Texas, you live in the southern states, you live in the West Coast, you walk outside your neighborhood, there's like nobody outside, 0 people. It's like people are always inside the house. Like when you walk outside, you feel invisible. You feel like you don't exist. You feel like a ghost, You don't feel alive, you don't feel free, like socially free to socialize with anybody outside when you're not around people. That's the bad thing about, living in the southern states in the West Coast. Now, I'm not saying there's 0 people, at all in California or Texas or Florida or Louisiana. There's towns that you could go to where there are people outside. But New York, what I like about it is that every single town in New York City, in New York in general, there's people outside around you where you feel more alive. You feel like you exist around people. You feel like you're not a ghost. You don't feel invisible, So that's the 4th thing that I like about New York in general. Number 5 is attractive woman everywhere. My God, my God. Bismillah, Bismillah. I gotta say that when I was in New York, my God, there was a lot of attractive women that I see within my own eyes everywhere I walk, every corner, every street, near every building. My God, there was attractive women everywhere. Not attractive woman like she was like a model looking, women don't have to be like a model type of look to look attractive. She could be like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. She doesn't have to be like a 10 out of 10 to look super duper physically attractive. But my God, women there were attractive. There were women there that looked like they were from Europe. There were women there that looked like they're from the Caribbean countries. There were women there that looked like they're from South Latin American countries. And I heard different language spoken there. I'm not sure if it was German, French, or of course there is Spanish that I heard there. But my God, New York has a lot of attractive women. Just not just sexy women, but beautiful women that when I look at them, they look open to me from my own experience. They look like, they would have let me approach them in a, casual way, not a business way, but in a casual way, and yeah, there are attractive women there that I experience more than women in Texas, more women than in California. Now, there are attractive women in California, but from my experience staying 1 week in New York City, my God, there's attractive women everywhere. The city, parks, streets. There were women that looked like prostitutes, hookers. There were women that looked like models. There were women that looked like businesswomen. And there were women that looked, normal and casual. Yeah, but my God, New York has a lot of attractive women. I didn't know that. I think New York has women that are tourists in New York from Europe, Caribbean countries, and Latin America. Because New York, you gotta remember that New York and California in general are the most major states that has a lot of attention from movies and the media of the US. All right. Number 6. I like number 6. All right. Number 6 is, the vibe of feeling happy, existing, and socially free around people. That's what I like about New York. I don't know why, but I don't know about your experience. Whoever is watching this video, if you're from New York or you visit New York, but the vibe, the feeling of feeling happy, feeling like I exist, in the feeling of feeling, socially free when I was around people walking outside. That's what I love about New York the most, is that I feel like I exist. I didn't feel like a loner outside when I walk outside New York. I didn't feel invisible or felt like a ghost. And you don't like that feeling, Some people don't like, certain feelings about themselves, you see. And I feel happy. I feel, socially free around people. When I say socially free around people, I mean like I could go up to a person and ask them any interesting questions about New York or about their personal life or about anything, And I felt socially free. I felt like I could socialize with any, random people. It could be weird people, gays, lesbian, heterosexuals, hot woman there. So I felt free in New York more than in Texas and California. People in Texas and California, to be honest, my experiences felt like people want to be left alone. People didn't want to be approached for some reason. People don't seem sociable. You could tell by looking at, a person's body language and a person's face expression that they don't want to be approached. They don't want to be bothered. They don't seem sociable. They don't seem friendly and kind, But people in New York, to me, seems kind, friendly, open, And of course, you will see weird people, but still they're more sociable than people in Texas and in California in general. From my experience, man, I don't know about you, but I was happy in NYC. I felt socially free there. I felt like I exist. Well, I didn't feel like a loner, like an invisible ghost when I walk outside in the streets in New York, like in Texas or in California. You know. Number 7. What I like about New York is the strong built buildings. Man, when I walk outside of New York, I look at every single building, and the buildings are very built strong. When I look at it, like it didn't look like it's slant over. Like some of the buildings in Europe. I'm not talking bad about Europe. I love Europe. I have seen Europe on the walk touring videos on YouTube, but the buildings in New York seem like they're built pretty strong. They look like they add a lot of work to the buildings in New York. And I like the way it's built with bricks. Paintings in New York. It looks pretty interesting when you look at the buildings in New York. But in Europe, the buildings are better looking because it looks more artistic. It is made out of different bricks, stones, So yeah. That's what I like about New York is the strong built buildings. Of course, the buildings in New York is all business building, but there were different types of building. The concrete made building, the brick buildings, and then you got the glass buildings in New York. That's what I like about New York. And the way they, structure it and build the tall and short building looks pretty interesting, from the apartment to business building to, the store buildings. Now, what's interesting about these stores in New York, it looked like every single store had like a tall above glass window apartment within these stores. In some of these stores, you could walk downstairs or even upstairs, which is very interesting about New York buildings. Yeah. Number 8 is I like the New York street foods. New York has a lot of interesting, good street foods like hot dog, Chinese food, fruits in general, and so on and so forth, sandwiches, ice cream. That is what I like about New York. And that's the pros about New York. Lastly, about what I like about New York and the pros about New York is the dating social life feels open in New York. When I went to New York, I felt like my dating life with, women in general seems to be more open in New York, because when I was looking at these women and observing, these women in New York, I felt like they were open. Their body language seemed more open. They didn't give me a negative, a vibe of an attitude of, oh, don't approach me, oh, don't bother me, oh, I don't want you to talk to me. I didn't feel that negative, vibe within my feeling by looking at them and observing these women body language. Like they didn't want me to, talk to them, or approach them. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel any negative, a vibe of my chance of dating a lot of women in N.Y.C. I didn't felt that, in the social life as well. The socializing life of socializing with people in New York City in general, with a stranger or with opposite sex, seems more open too in New York. To be honest, I felt like people there were more sociable, and more dateable in New York than in California. California and Texas. From my experience, I always have the vibe of feeling that people give you that look or in body language of, hey, don't talk to me, don't approach me. I don't want you to talk to me. You're a creep. You're a stranger, danger. I don't get that feeling in New York at all. So what is it, Hank? What is it with you Texans and Californians who give me, I don't know about y'all who's watching this video, if you're from New York, that I get that vibe all the time. Hey, don't talk to me, don't approach me, don't greet me. You creep, you perv, you this and that. So I feel like the vibe in Texas and Californians is very negatively judgmental against you, of the socializing of social life. Compare that to New York, where New York, I feel like the people in general seems more laid back, chill, seem to be more sociable. They seem to be willing to answer your questions. If you ask any question, they seem to be, they could talk to you, that's what I like about New York. So those are 9 things what I like about New York. So those are the pros, what I like about New York. All right, I'm going to hurry and finish this, but finally we're going to get into what I dislike about New York. It's the con side, the negative side, the bad side. Is number 1, I don't like the New York dirty streets. Of course, there are some streets in New York that are dirty, like they just leave like nasty liquid on the floor. It could be pee, dog poop, bird poop. It could be like trash put on the side, and it stinks. That's why I dislike it about seeing and experiencing in New York. Number 2 is the traffic. My God, not gonna lie, that the traffic in N.Y.C was pretty awful. There was like a lot of rushing, hesitating, and panics in New York when I got into the Uber driver. The Uber driver hits the honk and then he has to turn left or right, trying to get out the way of the traffics. The traffic is pretty bad in like in California, LA, and Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas. It's pretty bad, But the thing is, even though there's traffic, the good thing is that the Uber driver still drove me back to the hotel where I was staying in, So that's number 1. Number 3, of course, what I dislike about New York is that it has the high cost of living. New York City can be expensive to live, if you're trying to live in a fancy, nice apartment or home there, just like the cost of living in California. Both California and New York City cost a lot of money to live. You should have at least $100K to live in, California or even New York. But yeah, I have not looked so much into the cost of living in New York. I will sometimes, but you can still live in New York. I say if you have at least $30,000, at least $30,000 to $50,000, you can still live in New York, man. I don't think you should need $100K just to live in New York. You just need to find an apartment in New York to live, a month that costs at least $1,000 and somewhere below $1,000 to live in a good apartment in New York. You don't need to live in a apartment that costs shit $2,000 to $5,000, $10,000 a month. That's pretty expensive to live. All right, number 4 is what I dislike about New York is the homeless sleeping on the streets in front of people. Now, I'm not saying I dislike or hate homeless people. I understand that there's many reasons why people go homeless. This they have been through a lot of tough times or something might bad happen to them. But the homeless sleep on the streets, I dislike that because they would, kind of get in my way of walking. It's better for the homeless to sleep somewhere more private. Somewhere people can't see them. They need homeless people need like a place to sleep, like a shelter or something, or a better private place to sleep. And when I was in Times Square, I saw two homeless guys sleeping on the seating, area where people supposed to sit down. But the two homeless people, they were sleeping on, this stone brick where people are supposed to sit, and it didn't look right. Number 5, what I dislike about New York is beggars and scammers. Of course, you're gonna run into some type of beggar trying to trick you into wanting to take your money, and then you got scammers trying to scam you into buying something you don't need, you don't want to have, in the streets of New York. Number 6, what I dislike about New York, of course, like I said, there's weird people in New York, and of course, there are rude people in New York. It could be driving a car, they honk at you, they cuss at you, cuss at the other person. It could be a homeless person in the street standing, shouting, yelling, cussing at someone, which is pretty rude. Number 7, the crime rate in New York. The crime rate, I don't like crimes. I don't like living in this town or city where there's high crime rate, but, New York has at least 31.1% of robbery in New York. And 36.1%. But overall, New York City is still a safe place to live, in. Not as dangerous as California. California crime rate is way higher than New York. New York only has 36.1% of crime rate of overall. That is high, but not very high as much as California. California is way above 40% of crime rate, meaning that California has more, I guess, robbery, murdering, kidnapping, drug trafficking, shit. But yeah, New York City is still a safe place to live. I did my own research about New York City. If it's a safe place to live, it is safe. It is safe. There's cops everywhere in every street in New York. And I remember when I was sleeping in the hotel room, I heard a lot of police siren, because they were pulling people over, Number 8, finally, the last one. What I dislike about N.Y.C. is, of course, the subway train being dirty. The subway train could be absolutely, dirty. Like there's trash, garbage, food. It was left on the train, inside the train, seats. But it just, lazy, not cleanful, organized people, that aren't respectful to, the streets or certain things, in New York, so the people who are lazy and careless and not very cleanful and not organized type of people, they're gonna leave the trash in the train, and the subway, of course, is dirty. New York is not a 100% clean city or state at all, but it's still a good place to live. You want to change your life, like me. So guys, thank you for watching. This is Tommy Tan, the real life man, about what I like and dislike about New York, and the pros and cons of New York. N.Y.C, guys. Click a thumbs up, like my video, subscribe to my channel.